Thanks, IMS and A2 Live for having us. As Ben said, this is the first study that we, Nielsen, have done for the Asia-Pacific region. We were commissioned by A2 Live a couple of months ago. They wanted to understand a bit more about the dance music consumer in this region. So what I have for you today is a highlights presentation. We're going to be putting out a full report with A2 Live, which will be available at the end of October, beginning of November for purchase. But what we've got for you today is a couple of key points on what we've found about the dance music listener in Asia Pacific. So, firstly, why Nielsen? As Ben said, Nielsen, we're a big global market research company. We actually have offices in 106 countries. I was at our Nielsen Shanghai office yesterday, which was super exciting. We work in the music space. In North America predominantly, you're probably aware that we collect music sales and radio airplay and streaming data in the US and have done for the last 30 years, and we work with Billboard to create the charts. We are looking at expanding that music measurement more globally and hopefully into the Asia-Pacific region, so watch this space. But today I have for you consumer insight. Nielsen Music is part of the entertainment division of Nielsen, which also includes sports and games and now esports, which is a hugely growing area. Sorry, lost my shoe. Home entertainment and books, and we work across the whole music industry. So first, I'm going to start with a bit of insight around the US dance music scene. What we see in the US is that electronic music makes up 4% of all US music consumption. So these are numbers from the end of 2016. And when we look on the right-hand side there, we have the electronic music breakout in different formats. So electronic music, dance music makes up 1% of total physical albums sold, 3% of total digital albums, 5% of digital tracks, and 7% of on-demand audio streaming. And most interestingly, it is the same year on year. So from 2015 to 2016, it's a very stable genre in the US. In terms of how that breaks out by format, dance music is very on-demand audio streaming heavy. So streaming accounts for 57% of all dance music consumption, and it's 50% more likely to be a stream in dance music than it is in the overall music genre. So very streaming heavy, not so much in terms of physical digital album sales. Now, 2017, I've got an update here for how this year is looking to date in the US. So, on the left-hand side of the screen, we have the total market, year-to-date percentage change, 2017 year-to-date versus this point in 2016. The key headline is that on-demand audio streaming in the US is up 40%. Digital tracks down 23%, overall albums down 18%, and when we put that all together in an overall industry consumption metric with what we call track equivalent albums, stream equivalent albums, the overall music consumption in the US is up 10.6% year on year, which is great news. On the right-hand side, we have the dance music genre, where on-demand audio streaming is up 34.4%, so it's growing, but it's not growing as much as the overall music streaming in the US. Overall albums are falling slightly less than average, and digital tracks slightly more. So it's healthy in the sense that there's growth, but it's not growing as much in line with the industry. So that's the US. Now let's look at Asia Pacific, which is why we're here. So, like I said, A2 Live commissioned Nielsen to run this study. What I'm going to cover today is what we did, how we did it, what the engagement is with music in this region, who are the listeners, most importantly, what have we learned about them, and how to reach them. So, what did we do? we ran a consumer survey in 5 different countries in Asia Pacific. So we covered Australia, China, Taiwan, Japan, Korea. And it was an online survey. We ran it at the beginning of this month, so it's absolutely brand new. And we asked a bunch of questions around music consumption. Obviously, we asked whether they were dance music listeners, and then we've broken them out by that genre here. So what did we learn? Question number 1 was, do you listen to dance music? And Korea, out of those 5 countries, has the most respondents who said that they listen to dance music. So 74% of people in Korea listen to dance music. China and Taiwan at 64, Australia at just shy of 50%, and then Japan, the lowest out of those 5 countries at 35%. And then we asked, how often do you listen? Are you a fan? Are you a dedicated listener rather than just a casual listener? And again, Korea comes out on top. So 30% of the 74 there said that they were dedicated listeners. China, 18%. Taiwan, 14%. Australia, 12%. And then Japan, the lowest at 8%. But ultimately, very healthy dance music listenership in all of those countries. We also asked about other genres. So we can rank dance music in terms of genre popularity. The full report will have a list of all of the genres. But here we see that in Korea, dance music is the number 2 genre, obviously after K-pop. In China and Taiwan, it's number 5, Australia number 4, and Japan number 6. We then also have the demographic profile of these people who say they listen to dance music. And what you see on this slide is an index against the average music listener in each country. So in China, for example, where it's at 100, it means the dance music listener in China is, in terms of male-female split, is the same as the average music listener in China. But what it means for Australia here is that in Australia, the dance music listener is 14% more likely to be female than they are male, than the average music listener. And in Australia, the average music listener is 50-50. So more likely to be female in Australia, and slightly more likely in Japan and Taiwan and Korea. So what we're seeing in this region is that the dance music fan is more likely to be female, which is interesting because in the US, they are definitely, the genre skews male. We also have the age demographic breakout for dance music listeners. And again, in Australia, 27% more likely to be millennial, which is the 18 to 35 category. In Japan, again, skewing millennial. In China, interestingly, slightly less likely to be in that age group, and slightly more likely to be older than that age group. Another question that we asked in the survey was, how much money do people spend on music? And what I've broken out here is how much people say they spend on live music specifically. So what we have is a percentage of their average annual spend in each country that goes towards live music. So in China, on this side of the slide, 65% of all of the money that consumers spend on music goes on live music. And how we've broken it down in 4 categories here is admission to live music concerts, so that's your big ticket items with like one main headliner, admission to a DJ event, admission to a music festival, and then finally cover to access small music shows. So China, the highest percentage highest proportion spent on live music. I've also added in here US and Canada for context, because we've asked the same question in those 2 countries. So China and Taiwan higher, and then Australia on the far end, spending less of a proportion of the money that they spend on music, on live music. Korea, I think, is quite interesting here as well, because it's much more evenly split amongst those 4 categories. In the US, for example, like 36% is on those more expensive shows. while in Korea, more is spent on the smaller live music sessions. And then what we did was we took the live music spend and we converted it all into US dollars. And so we've put a number on how much each country spends on live music. And this is where I asked the research team to double, triple check these numbers. So China spend $128 on average a year on live music. This is not just dance music listeners, this is all music fans. Taiwan at $109, Australia, US, and Canada all very much in the same ballpark, just shy of $100. And then Japan, Korea, slightly less on live music. Then another question that we asked was around music discovery. So how do people find out about new music? And we gave people a number of different options to choose from, and here we have the top 2 ways that people discover new music in each of these countries. And what I think is super interesting here is that they're all different. So in China, for example, they're both digital online ways, so either via an online video music app or via social media. In Korea, it's playlists on the music streaming services. In Japan, it's on a TV show, but not a music competition show, but just a standard TV show, which also appears in China, in Taiwan, and in Korea, in those top 2 options. And then Australia is much more what we would see in the US and Canada, which is where radio is the main means of music discovery still. And then we asked, if you're a dance music listener, which streaming services do you listen to? And these are the results. So unsurprisingly, in all countries other than China, the top streaming service for dance music listeners is YouTube. These are just the top 2. In China, QQ Music and Kugu, very close there in positions 1 and 2. And then in Korea, you've got Melon, which is their local streaming service. In Taiwan, KKBox. And in Australia and Japan, Spotify prevail. So finally, I want to... Did I switch it off? Oh, yeah. So finally, I want to wrap all of those different pieces together and give you a kind of an idea of the average dance music listener in some countries. So I'd like you to meet Zhang Gui. He's from China. He's 40 years old. He earns on average $188,000 in household income. And his interaction with music is discovery via TV shows and music competition shows here in China. He uses QQ Music and Kugo for his top services, but also China Mobile and China Telecom. And when it comes to spending on music, he buys a subscription to Kugu. And then when we come to brand interactions, as a dance music listener, he's most receptive to a brand offering free access to music, such as a month's free streaming or even CD giveaways. And he likes it when a brand sponsors the tour of a particular artist or a brand that he likes. And also, this is Olivia. On the next slide. There we go. So Olivia's from Australia. She's 34 years old, and she earns around 77,000 Australian dollars. She discovers her new music using an online audio-video website or an app, such as YouTube, which is her top service. And she also discovers new music on the playlists of particular music streaming services. So along with YouTube, she uses Spotify, she uses Apple Music, and also the iHeartRadio app for Australia. And then she pays for one subscription, and that is for Spotify. And again, when it comes to brands interacting with with music, what she really appreciates is free things, because pretty much everyone does, and free access to music. And she likes it, again, if a brand sponsors a particular tour or a music festival. So like I said, this is just some of the key highlights from the study that we've done. There will be a full report. It will be available. It will include all of the information on streaming and who pays for streaming, and which brand interactions are most favorable to dance music listeners in all of the different countries. And that will be available at the end of next month. Thank you very much for having me. It's been fascinating, and I look forward to learning all about the region.